Mike, now let's get to some more updates from the Notre Dame football recruiting weekend. We've focused in on the commits and the Georgia kid who visited. What about some other news?
Yeah, so I had a whole update article Monday morning at blueandgold.com called The Gold Standard, where I broke down a few key pieces like the Ogboko visit, the Georgia commit, those three visitors, that committed to Notre Dame, and then Deuce Knight, who we'll talk about in a little bit. And then I went like rapid fire. Here's a bunch of the other targets and what I'm hearing about them. So I'll kind of give you guys some teasers of what you can find in that article. Talyn Taylor, from the Chicagoland area, number 71 overall player, number 11 receiver per the 2025 On3 industry ranking. Georgia, Notre Dame, UCLA battle. Interestingly enough, Talyn Taylor's really liking UCLA. Georgia, he visited, I want to say September for the Bulldogs game against South Carolina, if I recall correctly, September 16th. Visits Notre Dame, rocking some cool shades during his visit weekend. A really big time player. Notre Dame, I don't like to say needs to land him, but you gotta land Chicagoland talent like this, especially for, I think this was his third visit to Notre Dame in like 3 or 4 months. Going back to March. So he's already visited Notre Dame since going back to March than Justin Scott did in 2 years. So I think that's a good sign for his frequency of visiting. Really good visit from what I'm told, Darren. Talyn Taylor clicking with that Fighting Irish staff. Deuce Knight, I'm loving. I don't want to give too much away from what we're going to talk about in our next little discussion topic, but Deuce Knight's doing a phenomenal job recruiting for Notre Dame, being that kind of vocal voice for the Irish. Deuce Knight doing a really good job with Talyn Taylor. He's connecting with Chancey Stuckey, who I believe is doing a tremendous job. Chad Bowden, Jared Parker. I'm really liking what Jared Parker's doing on the recruiting trail. We don't talk about that enough. He's really connecting with all the offensive targets. Darren, I've talked about before, like, I think Parker's more of a Marcus Freeman coach and recruiter than Tommy Rees was. Parker's putting in the work on these prospects on the offside of the ball. I think Talyn Taylor, Notre Dame made a good move for him. Mark Zachary from Indy Ben Davis, again, another guy that Notre Dame should land from its quote unquote backyard. I've logged a prediction for Zachary to land at Notre Dame, and I'll be honest, it's more of a projection pick because you can make an argument that Ohio State's the team to beat here. He also likes Georgia a good bit as well, and other schools are after him, of course. But this big-time cornerback prospect in the 2025 class, again, grew up an Ohio State fan, Darren, but I think he was pulling for Notre Dame in that game. So that's always good to hear. Full story up on Zachary at blueandgold.com. This would be a huge get for the Irish. Midwest kid, number 1 player in Indiana in the 2025 class. Really good visit and a frequent visitor for Notre Dame over the past several months. A couple more guys to talk about. Chris Burgess from Chicago Simeon. Another Darren, big-time player from the Midwest. This 2025 class is loaded in the Midwest, and this is a kid from Chicago. I believe this was visit number 6 for him to Notre Dame, and the key note here is that this was his mom's first college recruiting visit. She had a really good time from what I'm told. So Notre Dame, I think, is in a really good spot for Chris Burgess, 6'4", 230-pound edge, 4-star prospect in the 2025 class. And Notre Dame, Darren, it just seems like a matter of time before they'll land, class of 2025 wide receiver, Jerome Bettis Jr., a player I got to see this past Friday. It was a blowout win for his team, but he looked outstanding. 6'3", 185 pounds. Maybe not a burner at this stage, but how sound he looks technically at the receiver spot, catching the ball with his hands, smart football player. With a pretty high upside as well. I think he's just kind of tapping into how good he can be at the receiver spot. Bettis visited this past weekend. He's a frequent visitor to South Bend. It's going to be hard for Notre Dame not to land a kid with the last name Bettis. His sister's already a student at Notre Dame. He had a really good visit as well, clicking with Deuce Knight as well, Notre Dame's quarterback commit in his class.
Okay, Mike, let's wrap things up by talking about Deuce Knight for a moment, the 2025 quarterback commit. He's been committed for just about a week. What has it been like for him in his first week being a part of this Irish family?
So, as we record this on Tuesday, he's been committed to Notre Dame for at least publicly 8 days. He's done interviews with me 3 of those 8 days. And I mentioned that because like he's just really embracing like being this face publicly for Notre Dame, as well as how hard he is recruiting behind the scenes, Darren. A key figure in CJ May committing to Notre Dame, the defensive end out of Alabama. They had been talking about for several months, like, hey, let's go team up together. And then May commits to Notre Dame within a week of Knight committing to Notre Dame. Knight, again, had a huge role there, really like targeting and honing in on these, maybe not honing in is the right word, but just going after these 2025 receiver prospects, defense, offense, like both sides of the ball. Deuce Knight. I mean, we saw CJ Carr had done such a good job in the 2024 class of that, especially early on in the cycle. Deuce Knight, a vocal leader, recruiting hard behind the scenes. And Darren, I'll also mention, you can find an article at blueandgold.com Monday where I talked to Deuce about recruiting. He is aggressive too. I'll talk to a lot of prospects, Darren, about like, hey, you're committed. Who are you talking to? And a lot of them, understandably so, will be like, I'm not like too aggressive and in your face about recruiting. I'm more just like building relationships and showing like, hey, this is what life will be like as a commit. And if you go to Notre Dame, they'll kind of talk about Notre Dame, but nothing crazy. Deuce, he's not pushy about it. I honestly think Blake Fisher in the 2021 class, he was kind of the face of that group. At times, Blake was kind of like in your face, pushy a little bit about it. Deuce is not too much, but he has a plan. Like he laid out for like 45 seconds to a minute or so. Here's everything I'm telling these kids. And again, at that point, he'd only been committed for like 6 days when he visited campus, but he laid out everything that he says to these, his peers and why they should go to Notre Dame. And he told me like examples of like, hey, these kids are telling me that they're really considering this school. He's like low-key negative recruiting even. Like, hey, this is why Notre Dame is so much better than this school. You can't compare fill-in-the-blank school here to Notre Dame. Like, come on. I love it. And then for folks watching on YouTube, Kyle Kelly of Blue and Gold tweeted out a video of Deuce Knight in the white shirt there, just kind of partying and hanging out with these other Notre Dame commits at the game. You can see him in the stands just having a really good time. He's really all in on the Irish, Darren. I would say for folks who are like, is Deuce Knight going to stick with us? He's from SEC country. Who knows, right? We'll see. But from my interactions with Deuce Knight, for what you're seeing from him in the game and how he's recruiting other prospects, I've got no issues at all. Or no concerns at all. From folks I talked to on the Notre Dame side of things, they're feeling really good as well. Like, I think that this kid is all Notre Dame, no concerns for me. I think there's no concern about, him potentially flipping. Again, it's recruiting. Stranger things have happened, but I think he's all good with the Irish.
Hey, one more real quick. It looks like CJ Carr's having some fun this year.
Oh, CJ Carr's dominating. Yeah, he's having an outstanding senior year early on. Just this past week, I think it was like 25 to 28, 300 plus yards, 5 total touchdowns, getting it done on the ground and obviously through the air as well.